All right, folks, here we go. We've had many special guests, but this might be the best of them all. As we are ready, Adam and Adrian, with another Double A Quarantine podcast, and we've got the greatest manager in Baysox history, a man that's been around, I guess, for more Baysox games than them all, Gary Kendall. We missed you last year, Gary, but it's so good to see you, happy and healthy, doing well right now.
Doing fine. And I missed you all too, but I tell you, it was really fun, to sit back as our season was winding down and, we missed postseason, but I happened to be with the Major League Club in September, and I got a chance to see a lot of the highlights and the good things that were happening in Bowie last year with Buck Britton and his staff and the team. And it was exciting, because at the beginning of last season, I was getting a lot of calls from Buck, and he was kind of ready to, hang himself. And then, of course, some wonderful things started to happen. And it was a really neat thing to see evolve. So congratulations.
That's great. How was Norfolk?
I enjoyed it. I mean, it was, getting used to every day, not knowing what is going to be thrown at you, more so in the transaction side of it, getting used to losing a pitcher either the night before or the day of, to lose maybe two or three players. And what I did realize was that there were times that it had probably happened 10 or 15 times during the course of the season, was an injury that occurred at the game, whether it was to Severino, whether he just kind of didn't feel right. And then all of a sudden I was asked in the third inning to take Austin Wynns out, or Francisco, whoever was the premier catcher at that time. And, you'd have to take them out of an impact game that you'd have, it would be 2-2 in the third inning and Cisco's on deck, and, you get that call that, you have to take them out. And of course, the first thing they're thinking is that they're going to Baltimore. So they're pretty, they could kind of read between the lines. And then it kind of would be a false alarm, because after the game we would check and Severino would have concussion-like symptoms or something like that, and he wouldn't go up. So that was a tough thing. But getting used to all those things, I actually started to prepare myself mentally for him and to get ready for him. And I always heard about the way it was, but it wasn't until I experienced it. And it was good that I had Mike Griffin, who had been there for years, Butch Davis, who had been at AAA for years, as people to really lean on, but it was quite an experience.
Now, Gary, we think of you as a secret weapon with the background of both the scouting. Okay.
Yeah.
With both the scouting and the coaching background. Doing that transition, how has that helped your career, knowing both sides of it as you do?
Well, it really helped me in my preparation to write reports and to be very open-minded. One thing, I mean, in every report that I ever wrote on a player, I would, especially if I didn't think the player was going to be a big leaguer, I always wanted the player to prove me wrong. And I was never – I think one big thing a scout can do is admit that they're not always right. And so many times, especially when you're evaluating young players, as they move through the system, I might have read a report on Caleb Joseph because I had him in Aberdeen and I had him again in Bowie. And then in Aberdeen, did I think he was a big leaguer? And sometimes I look back on those reports. So the report writing was really instrumental, because we always had to do season-ending reports. And I thought I learned to evaluate, not that I always was right, but I learned a sense of evaluating a player that I think sometimes it takes a while for a player development. Now, they might have those good systems in place, but maybe not the terms that they look for in the scouting end of it. So I always thought being a scout first helped me evaluate players for the long run better. But it made me open-minded. And I wish I would go back to do it again, because I really believe I would say yes to a lot of players that I used to block out and say no to. Just on the experience of seeing now what sometimes it takes to play in the big leagues. And sometimes it's just not about ability. It's about what you see in that player, those intangibles and at the heart. And, we had plenty of them in Bowie. Guys that, Adam and I or Adrian, we'd always sit over in Applebee's and have conversations on how many guys you think off this team are going to make in the big leagues are going to get to the big leagues. And I think at one time when I counted, I think 15 players off that ball club who had never played in the big leagues up until that point had got to the big leagues. And if you would have asked me that in 2015 or one night in Applebee's after a beer with you guys, I never would have said 15 players. So players can change and players can improve. And thank God for that.
Yeah, and Gary, people don't realize that your eye in that way helps not just for your own team, but also seeing players on the other teams and being able to provide information, because you might have seen a AA or AAA ball player play more for another team that the Orioles are looking to trade for.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I remember, never forget, working for the Padres and having to do, the Orioles system and seeing a Ryan Miner or a Calvin Pickering or those types of players come through. And, they wanted to know, not only if they're big leaguers, but what kind of impact are they going to make at that big league club? So they put you on the spot a little bit, they really do. But the experience was really valuable. And, I look back on those reports sometimes and, as an amateur, I have Mark Teixeira's, reports that I wrote on him when he was in college, when he was at, Mount St. Joe, Gavin Floyd's and the guys like that. I look back on some of the ones when I would leave the territory, going back, Ben Davis, who was a big-time #1 pick by the Padres out of Pennsylvania, just certain guys like that. Trot Nixon, one time I saw him in North Carolina. Just some really gifted and talented players. So
isn't it an interesting spot where the Orioles organization is now? I mean, you've been in it for so long and seen such literally a generation of Oriole players, and now there's just a depth of guys that seem like they're going to get a chance at the big league level. I know that not every one of them is going to pan out, but there's so many players that are going to get a crack at this.
It's exciting. It really is. I mean, just to be part of it and to maybe, pull a Brandon Klein like last season, pulling him into the office and telling me he was going to go to the big leagues and seeing the emotions and to know where we were, because it was in 15 in Richmond one night when he got hurt. And we never thought we'd ever see him maybe that way again. And for what he went through and to get to the big leagues. And then we have many more guys like that not only just played for Norfolk this year, but we're in Bowie and that wonderful club that Delmarva had. So the horizon for these players and the upside, it's really there. And, it's a great organization to sign with just because of the opportunity alone.
A little offbeat question during this quarantine time. What is something unique that you've bought for yourself, for your daughter, or something different you've done to kind of get through this time?
Clothes. Well, it's not so much. I like to shop, so I would just order online clothes. And the worst thing was that I'm not a big try-on person. But I like to go to like Tommy Bahama's or Nordstrom's or something like that. And I like to window shop, and certainly, you see something you like to buy it, but I would buy it, never try it on and take it home. And then if it didn't fit, it would give me an excuse to take it back and go to the store again. But I would order online like shoes and clothes but not so much unique. I mean, I'm boring when it comes to certain things that I buy.
So we've been doing this game, and it's called Would You Rather. So we're going to do about a 30-second clock. You got to pick one, and you got to behave during this.
You broke up there for a while.
Okay. So I'm going to ask you a question. The game is Would You Rather. We're going to keep it simple. You have to keep it clean. Would you rather live in a cave or live in a treehouse?
Treehouse.
Would you rather teleport or be able to read minds?
Oh, man.
Read minds.
Would you be an amazing painter or be a brilliant mathematician?
Mathematician.
Ooh.
Would you rather fly on a carpet or be able to drive a car underwater?
Oh, car underwater.
Never be in traffic again or never have a cold?
Ooh.
Never be in traffic again. I'm good with Colts.
Good job.
Gary, you got the wildest questions of any. Would you rather? Adrian dug up the good ones for you.
Of course.
Yeah. Yeah. You guys are too much.
I know you're in Baltimore right now. I mean, I know it's been one of the coolest parts of your career, right, Gary? Just getting to have it happen with the team that, I mean, you never played minor league baseball or professional baseball, and you're able to have this career in the, in the organization that you grew up rooting for.
Yeah, it's you pinch yourself, and you really realize how lucky you are, and each year, it could be the end. I mean, and it's nothing personal, because I've seen good baseball people come and go, and guys that were wonderful employees and guys that I love working with that are no longer with us. So each year, you sign that contract knowing it could be your last, and just because of just the shape of the game and how you fit, and you hope that you can maybe move on and help maybe another organization or something like that. You never want to, pigeonhole yourself and say that this is the only organization, but you do know how lucky you are. And I just think that one of the things is you try to reinvent yourself. You try to broaden yourself, and you try to, like the AAA experience, even though I personally was very happy to stay in AA, and I had, so many friends, and the level I thought was a really good fit for me. And, but I thought the AAA opportunity, I had to give it a chance. And there's other things in this game with the Orioles that I've yet to do. Yeah. And I would love to do. And I just don't know kind of how to approach it, because you really don't have the sometimes, you don't really want to overlook one job that you might not have now to move on to a different job. But you always want to make yourself more so much open to do a lot of things for the organization. And but I've been very, very fortunate, and the baseball has been so wonderful to me, and this organization has been outstanding to me and my family. And I've met so many great people, and I look back at especially the years in Bowie, because that was a long time. I mean, it really was. Yeah. I mean, when I look at the managers, I think Matt LaCroix was the manager in Harrisburg when I started in that league, and he eventually returned. But there was a while there, it was Brian Dahlbeck. But outside of him, there were guys.
Tony Franklin in Trenton for a while, right?
Yeah, and what a wonderful guy he was. So you met so many good baseball people, and I really missed that field because that field was it's a really, really nice field. And, they kept it so well kept in the front office and the people. And, of course, the teams. I look back on those teams, and, some teams were built better than others, and they competed. And I was fortunate to have not only just great coaching staffs, but to have players that actually really cared. And they made it, a wonderful experience for me in those 8 years that I was there.
Well, thank you so much for joining us on the show today, Gary.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you so much, Gary.
If you're looking for somebody to go on again, I'll go on again. All right?
We really appreciate it.
Well, I enjoy talking to you guys, and because, you're very good friends of mine, and you're knowledgeable, and you have the same passion I have for baseball. And you guys have done a hell of a job, and you've been a great friend of mine and positive to me. And I'm appreciative to you. So thank you.
We appreciate you too a lot.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Gary.